So many people have written into me and talked about the fears they have of reverting to old emotional patterns. And that can happen, right? You have a fear of trusting, being devastated, or being disappointed and having things happen again and again and again. And so, why do we open up our hearts? Why do we try again? As one person recently wrote me, I fear I don't know how to heal, how to grow, how to find my place in the world. Well, I'm Deirdre Fay, and what I'm going to be talking about today is informed from decades of research and my own exploration, writing books and training professionals and individuals and groups. And I want to talk about the attachment reasons interwoven with beautiful ancient wisdom traditions that actually help us melt some of those fears. The fears I mentioned and I've been exploring come from reading hundreds of responses to my recent research question asking what people wanted to leave behind as they move into the new year. So I had over 457 responses, and I was able to pull out 4 different distinct themes. The first one was people had of releasing these old patterns that kept them stuck, repeating the same kinds of relationships over and over, whether it was personal relationships, friendships, work relationships, relationships with money, with their lives, that these old patterns kept staying present. They couldn't seem to let them go. So that was one big theme that came out. Another was about changing forms in relationship, especially during this time of the pandemic. People's forms of relationships are changing. People can't interact in the same way. People are finding new relationships, leaving old relationships, being connected in ways that are different. So that was a whole theme. There was also another theme about insecurity and a certain sense of uncertainty about how to proceed. The map has changed, right? The external world is so different. People didn't know how to do things in the same way. They don't know how to proceed even further. Another theme was about trouble believing, as one person said, that despite all I've done, that I can rebuild without being knocked down again, right? This is so, so, so important because we've all tried, we've all done things. Things haven't always worked out the way we planned. And this person who wrote was actually a therapist and said, despite all I've done, all the work I've done on myself, this person actually had been in, as they described in their response, they'd been in analysis 4 times a week, right? And they felt like things didn't really change the way they wanted to. And they wanted to trust that they could rebuild without being knocked down again. So why is this so important to talk about and look at? One of the things that pains me is when we don't know that there's a path out of the painful life history, the healing wilderness that we get into. We all want to heal, right? We want things to be better and different. But it feels like a wilderness, like there's no map, there's no guide. One of the other things that comes up for people is that it's always counterintuitive to what we hear in therapy, like getting out of these stuck places, especially using the ancient wisdom traditions and attachment theory, is less about going into the pain, but more about building a parallel path so that we can at some point just move into this new path where this becomes so familiar. We've learned to train our body, mind, and heart about having a new path so that we can link together the old and the new and live from where we actually are, which is in this new world that we're in. We don't have to keep repeating the old pattern. Does that make sense to you? That's what we're trying to do. And good therapy is actually one of the greatest gifts we can give to ourselves. One of the dilemmas that it is that it costs a lot, right? But it also gives us back our lives for so many people. At the same time, therapy is dealing with our fears, blocks, and resistances. And most of the time when we go into therapy, we want something about us fixed. That's really important to deal with those, work with that, repair and remap that whole idea that there's something wrong with us. and that we want it to be different. Of course you want it to be different. Who doesn't, right? We don't like to be in pain. We don't like to be in difficulty. But the dilemmas with therapy is that because we're in therapy for 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 hours a week, the rest of the time, there's so much time in our lives where we're not. So we're trying to change a pattern in these small segments of time when we have the rest of the time where the old pattern repeats itself. So we need to learn how to be outside of the therapy hour where we can actually continue building that self-structure inside. This inner container, this solid, steady, secure self that can keep us moving forward. I think of it as an inner structure that allows us to be with whatever is happening in life, so that rather than getting like tossed and turned and thrown asunder, we can actually let it rise, crest, and fall, move through us, rise, crest, and fall. Because it's true, we should have had the kind of support we needed when we were younger. But the reality is most of us didn't, and we're imprinted with those early attachment patterns. Sometimes it was because those people who were caring for us didn't know any better. And sometimes it was people were absolutely horrible, emotionally and psychologically and physically, and there was neglect and actual real painful trauma. And this is what I've been intently focusing on for the last 30 years, finding simple, practical, concrete ways for people to build an inner structure so that you know that when that stuff hits the fan, you can stay present. You can take a deep breath. You can let it rise, crest, and fall without being blown out of the water. Of course, you're going to get triggered. I really believe that the reason we get triggered is to show us a new way, not to get spinning and stuck in the trigger, but to find a new way. But we need to repattern and remap that way it's held in our body so that we have a different imprint, one which is a healing imprint. I think there's a way forward. This is what I've been teaching in all my life, it seems like. I've certainly been training people to do this in my professional life since the 90s, 80s and 90s. And we do it all the time in the Safely Embodied Learning community. For the last few years, we've been focused on people using the BSE skills to get organized inside so that they can more easily deal with the triggers that happen. Now we're expanding that, not just focusing on the BSE skills, because here's what I'm thinking. I want to map out for you the healing journey. The first step is being able to be inside our own skin again. That's really important because that's the only place where change can happen, is being here, present inside ourselves. But that's only the first step. Then we have to do other steps. And frankly, I think I'm one of the luckiest people in the world because I get to see people grow, develop, and change and become more themselves every day. It's a miracle. It's a joy for me to see. I love it. It's one of the reasons why I'm expanding the way I do this Safely Embodied Learning community, because I see people have changed. They're ready for more. They're no longer stuck at one place. So I want to keep providing that. We're at this crossroads where there's something more happening. So many people have changed and transformed the patterns that have kept them stuck that we're evolving as a community. And I'm having to grow and develop as a process too, which means that my teaching is changing and the format of our community, the Safely Embodied Learning community, the calls that we're doing are changing. Each call now is more of a mini workshop where he presents the material as a workshop, as a practical experience where you try it on in small, easy to take on bites. So it's not some big, huge thing. It's small, granular. It's something you can process and change and grow with. This then allows you to integrate the theory and the granular skills that are necessary to link it together and make a difference in your daily life. This past New Year's Day, I shared a live free meditation with over 150 people on the call. I call it heart bathing. You know what was so sweet about it? is nobody wanted to get off the call at the end of the time. People were bathing themselves in love, and that feels good, right? And when we feel that good, when we get a touch of that, we sense it, feel it, taste it, we're in it, we're marinating in it. It's like, oh, this is what I've longed for all my life, right? It's like the ultimate reality. We want to love and we want to be loved. It's so primal, isn't it? We want that. So that's what's so important. That's what we're going to be doing more and more of, and I'd love for you to come and join us. So I should put that right here so you have it, to come and join us in the Safely Embodied Learning community and learn how to take that path from being inside your body, being connected to yourself, knowing the second part of the process is knowing what these patterns are, having them inside yourself, knowing what they are enough so that you can change it, that you can make a conscious decision. I don't want this anymore. I want something different. I don't have to keep repeating the same pattern. So that's the second step. The third is being aware of the energy, the communication that happens on these many different levels, on an energetic level, so that you can be more clear inside yourself. Then it's being able to have the discrimination and discernment of how I want to do. How do I make this choice in this moment? How do I actually pull back and choose to vector in a new direction so I can have a life that I want? So that's important. And then we get to a place where we actually live more from our body, mind, and heart, an integrated place, and we're guided from within. That's when we start living in a blissful place, because we're connected inside ourselves. We're connected to all the wisdom coming in from the earth, from the heavens. It's connected to our heart. We're holding all the different parts of us. We're integrating all that. And then we can be in the world on what I call the horizontal plane in a different way, connected on the vertical, and out comes a greater capacity to have the world that we want and be with the life that we want on the outside. So that's the whole point, and that's what I love doing. I love finding ways to make that path even more accessible for all of us, myself included. But then I get to share it with people, so that's a thrill for me. So I love being with you, as always. And keep the questions coming. Like I said, I had so many responses. I'm still diving into the 457 at last count. That was a week ago. I just checked, so there's probably a lot more there. Keep them coming. That helps me to really get clear on how I can help you even more. And the more questions I get, the more I can help you. All right, my dears, and do check out the Safely Embodied Learning community and see if it's right for you. If you have any questions, let me know that too. But we are there waiting and looking forward to being with you. All right, everybody. Love you.